Cool. Richie, welcome to the show, man. How's things going? Before we go anywhere, I have a burning question that I need to ask about your previous life as a professional gamer.
Oh wow. Who the hell gave me that information now?
I can't remember exactly who it was, but it's out there in the open, so I thought I'd ask the question.
Oh,
Let's
wow.
relive.
Yeah, I've got a problem with games. I do have a problem with games. Yeah, when I was like 16, I played a game called Counter-Strike.
Okay.
And I was a pro gamer.
What does that entail exactly?
Well, now it's huge. Now it's a multi-million-dollar industry. You know, you've got E3 in the US, in Korea they have gaming houses and all of that type of stuff. But by the time you get to like 22, kind of your eye and hand reflexes are gone for games. You know, so when I was younger, it was like the start of it. I was playing Counter-Strike quite a lot. I went to the Counter-Strike World Games in Malaysia and that type of stuff. And yeah, I used to play games kind of professionally while I was training and fighting. And now it's also like my off time.
Okay.
So I play games. Usually December is my gaming month. Once I'm done with all fights, so like I've got 4 more weeks until the camps are done for the end of the year, then I'll sit down on my PlayStation and I won't leave the house.
Learn some colours off the remote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned there 4 weeks left to go. What's been a bit of a crazy year, especially for yourself. There's been so much going on. I mean, you've had countless guys in international organisations, obviously clips with Don at the UFC.
Yeah.
How would you grade this year in terms of like personal success and team success for you guys? It's obviously been a massive experience, a massive learning year. You know, like if we could say like the first year in a massive venture with multiple guys competing overseas and really getting out there and having to learn, yourself having to learn, them having to learn, and then again bringing all of that information back to
Yeah,
the
I
team.
think this was definitely the breakthrough year. It's been a build up over 10 years. This is actually just the start of the new phase. You know, guys going overseas, fighting in multiple international organizations is the way that you have to go eventually. And this year was for my school, for Coach Quan University. It was the year that we broke through. We had guys fighting on Brave, EFC, UFC, M1 Global, into the boxing industry as well, on Golden Gloves. So, you know, that's the way forward. This is like the first year of many, I think. I think next year is even going to bring even more. So I'm still trying to adjust to it in terms of I don't have a team of coaches, and it's putting a lot of strain on me because I'm trying to be in 5 different places at once. I'm trying to do a whole lot of things with a whole lot of disciplines, you know. So next year I definitely need to implement and try and find like-minded individuals that can assist me throughout the next few years, because it's only going to get better from here or get worse from here in terms of my time. But yeah, I mean, it's great, you know, guys like the first ones obviously with JP and Chad in Brave, breaking that international stigma, going over, beating big names, undefeated names, Italians, Russians, Dagestanis, you know, all of that type of stuff, traveling to crazy countries, experiencing the travel, the cut, the hydration, your warm-up routine, and then going out into a foreign stadium and performing. Then, you know, obviously Don in the UFC and you know, being a super underdog as well, and going there and, you know, owning the UFC in terms of his presence, and then ticking a few boxes that I've never seen with the students. Obviously in the UFC, getting a massive knockout, feeling that crowd, getting the performance bonus. It's unusual for anyone to do that on their debut against an opponent like that. And then, you know, getting international guys like you know, Cheyenne's come over. You know, she's come from a very high level camp. She's chosen this place obviously because of following JP and then creating a life together, but as well aside from that, you know, the coaching and the facility that she can train in, you know, and from Don, JP, and Chad's performance. You know, we've got a lot of international recognition. People now want to come here from other countries. I've got a lot of inquiries. Guys from Europe, US, but even Pakistan coming wanting to train, you know, and also then I can't forget to mention, you know, Mark going to a very hard promotion M1 Global, where if you're not Eastern Europe or Russian, you don't do well, then him absolutely demolishing.
Yeah, they don't hide that either. They're quite open about it. They're very much like the commentators are against you. Like you kind of just cannon fodder for one of their guys.
Exactly, like we all know that. And even not even that, like every experience I've learned a lot from. What people see as the bad, I see as the good. So like Boyd Allen in Global Fight Night, it was a very good experience and positive understanding of what he needed to do, what I needed to do, and experiencing all of that. You know, Chad fighting one of the biggest Dagestanis nowadays, Ikram out of Brave, and then learning so much from that experience and coming back and being one of the top contenders right now, and potentially fighting for the belt, you know. You know, all of these experience, Boyd going into boxing, into the biggest organization in South Africa, Golden Gloves, and doing so well, and the boxing community actually accepting it, you know, because there's a massive stigma with MMA and so forth. So this year for me has been a lot of ups and downs, you know, but at the end of the day, it's growth. So that's how I'm looking at it.
I was listening to, I think it was John Kavanagh was talking about it, and it actually made me think of you. He was talking about like a surreal moment he had when Conor McGregor was fighting Floyd Mayweather. He was in the corner, and he kind of had this like blinding realization that he was about to corner his fighter against Floyd Mayweather. And it was like this surreal moment of like, kind of like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know, kind of thing. And it made me think about like your thought process. Obviously, and I don't think anybody can deny the fact that in terms of let's MMA, again, we're going to branch into combat sports, in this country, you are the leading face. You're the guy who's got students that are really excelling and really pushing past, and it's not by chance, it's not an accident. You know, it's something that's happened through your passion and hard work, and obviously the clicking of guys. I mean, you know, guys will come and go, not everyone stays.
Yeah. The
guys that are meant to be are here, and guys and girls. So, what is your thought process like when you see, for example, Don land a head kick KO in the UFC on debut? Like, is it an overwhelming experience, or is it kind of like you guys knew you were going to get it? It was just a matter of time, and that's that moment.
Yeah, I think an experience that you're talking about with John and Conor, with Floyd, that's a surreal moment because it's an abnormal moment. Don getting his head kick KO wasn't abnormal for me. We trained over and over for that. We put in the hours. For any of my boys that got a performance like that or finish fights like that, it's not really surreal for me because it's something that we train every day, and the guys put in so much hours. You know, if I was sitting there in having my 5th or 6th UFC title fight, like that might be surreal. But for that situation, in terms of Don's situation, it wasn't really surreal. It was a box that I have ticked, that I was happy to tick, and that I was grateful that I could create that situation so that box would be ticked. But in terms of surreal, no, because surreal means it's abnormal, and I don't feel like that's abnormal. I feel that that's going to be the new thing now. That's where the hard work goes, and that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning for Don, and just the beginning for my new generation that's going to come through. I believe that the next year you're going to see a lot more of my guys in big promotions like the UFC. I really do believe that, and obviously, you know, everyone's with you when the good times are going, you know. But when we've said that we were going to do this, no one believed us, and now when it's happened, now you can see everyone now is kind of like dick riding you, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing like Chad just also fought a 12-0 guy and absolutely demolished him. JP just beat Khabib's cousin, big Dagestani name, and Don getting that amazing performance. Like, all of these things are not really surreal for me. It's more, that's what we do. That's what we train for, and I wouldn't expect anything else.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things for me, like, for guys who are paying a lot of attention to MMA globally, and you start like watching what the mega camps are doing, and this is something I really wanted to ask you. Like, if you see, like, there's like shows on YouTube, like the anatomy of the fighter, yes. The guys are like following Khabib, and most of the guys from AKA or they're in Albuquerque, and like you see, you almost get to see behind the scene in the camp, like what's going on. You know what I mean? And it's one of the funny things, like here, for example, like there's no out-and-out cage. You know what I mean? If you look at like the UFC Performance Institute, they've got a cage with the exact lights and cameras and give you that kind of feel. So I think it's quite surprising when people like follow Apex, for example, online and Coach Quan University, and they see a bit of like grappling going down and a bit of pads, but then all of a sudden there's so much more. So it's kind of like there's almost like there's a lot of the story untold from you guys, which is quite cool to see. Because like I like never see like you guys doing out and out Muay Thai. Like, and you were saying that you want like-minded coaches, maybe from different disciplines, that are going to kind of like alleviate the stress. So what is the typical week made up of here? Like how are you structured?
So typically, it's changed over the past 10 years. I've experimented a lot with the first generation, going into the second generation of athletes. Obviously, with a lot of traveling to all these mega camps, understanding their processes and what they're doing. But my pros do two main MMA sessions a day, one at 8 a.m. and one at 12 a.m. Those are compulsory that the guys need to do. One is a striking and wrestling, the other one is a pure grappling. In between there, the guys will do their conditioning and private pad work with me. In between that, we do our 1% sessions where guys will after I do a whole breakdown. I've got a whole system of how I break down a fight using 4 concepts. Using these 4 concepts, we usually break the fighter down, understand what my athlete's 1% is. That 1% is like, for instance, Don's head kick. We knew that was a 1% to the fight that would change the game. JP's single leg defense. Chad's turning sequence and underhook on the ground. Like, these are the 1% that they will do also in between in the days. Conditioning, the guys see the conditioning coaches between 2 and 3 times a week, but they're doing a minimum of 2 MMA sessions a day. That is compulsory. And the training is very technical and smart. It's not about trying to kill each other, knock each other's heads off. Something a lot that we've tried to learn, a lot of injury prevention. Sparring goes up and down in terms of how we do it. There's a specific way I like to do it to keep injuries low and IQ up. And I also got to look at individuals, like I take a few athletes, like for Don to do hard sparring. He's been doing Muay Thai his whole life. There's no point for him to get into hard sparring, technical sparring, a lot of wrestling, grappling is kind of more what he wants. But take JP, if I make him wrestle all the time, well, that's what he grew up with, so I've got to make him maybe do a little bit more hard sparring. There's a lot of IQ formula that I've implemented these days that seems to be working. Our striking classes are very technical. I'm always studying. I do at least 2 to 4 hours of studying a day, every single day, to make sure that I can keep him up to date on understanding things, from the striking to the wrestling to the BJJ to understanding approaching. And then the jiu-jitsu side, a lot of people still don't understand why I make my fighters do gi. I believe that the gi slows the game down a lot. The technique is super tight in the gi, it can be vice versa in the no-gi. I believe that no-gi, you can explode out of things a lot easier, but you know, that there's pros and cons for both, and that's why I like to do, you know, make my fighters grapple in the gi and no gi. I just think it adds a better value on that, and I'm seeing a lot of progress with it. So my program is kind of come down to a lot of experience with the first generation in traveling, and just kind of like settled down with what I think is right for my guys. And personally, I can see it. Like, I got guys that have been with me 4 years that are high level guys going overseas, tapping black belts from some of the best in the world, and you know, and that's the proof's in the pudding. Yeah, coaching, that's what I want to be. I want to have the greatest system. I want to be one of the greatest coaches. I don't really care about being a badass.
Sure. And it's, you know, you said that the proof is in the pudding, and you mentioned something a bit earlier. We spoke about Chad's first fight in Brave against was it Ikram? Do you think that no matter how good the coaching, almost every great fighter has to have that fight where the only way they can understand what you're trying to teach, or where things can go wrong, is in a fight? Yes. Do you think that's unavoidable? Like,
yes, so like there's a lot of work that's put on the mat and a lot of understanding, but then like when you get into a fight, if I take a few of the athletes, you put them like Chad's first fight with Ikram, he became very confident in his wrestling defense. Ikram's this massive guy, has over 300 sambo fights, supposed to be this mad wrestler, and took Chad once, and that was with a kind of a flip hip throw. Chad actually double-legged him, but then engaged. From that fight, also understanding that he's more of a forward contact fighter. Going into the next fight, he really got confident with his grappling and his submission game. Going into the next fight, he learned more about who he is as a fighter. I have a story of that with every single of my athletes. You know, they learn, but we break it down after the fight. It's not like, okay, you won or you lost, high five, done. It's like, why did you win? Why did you lose? What can we take away with it? The process is exactly the same regardless if you win or lose, because there's always improvement. So, for instance, you know, Jacob's last fight as well now, he got so confident in his striking, you know, that type of stuff. You know, Don understanding that he's a forward guy, that he actually isn't a jab guy, he doesn't like to stay on the outside, that he likes to counter strike with guys, you know. All of this is, you can implement on the mat and we can see it, but when you actually implement in the fight, it's like a box being ticked, and it's with you permanently then, yes.
The other thing I wanted to get in, obviously, is everybody, a lot of people always want to know the answers. Apex, the facility, and Coach Quan University, just talk us through that, and the inception, the thought behind everything, and where you guys are now.
Okay, well, Apex is Boyd Allen's gym. He's running this gym in Bryanston. I've moved the fight team on amateurs and pros here, calling it Coach Quan University. I'm still involved in teaching and fully in Fight Fit Militia. Fight Fit Militia is a business, it's a community gym. That's what we want it to be. It would just made a better thought, better structure of taking the professional team and implementing it in a different place, just for business reasons, and it's working. Every family's flourishing. We've got a great kids program going on there, the jiu-jitsu program, striking program, private program, all of that, so forth. Coach Quan University is now in Apex. It's a good facility to be in. We've got our mats and so forth, our ring and all of that. This is where I train all my pros and amateurs for competition.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. What do you think, if we look back, obviously we've got a few weeks left till the end of the MMA season, if we can, locally. Obviously we've spoken about your guys' growth, fighters competing internationally. What do you think of the year in a whole for South African MMA, or African MMA as a whole? Like, do you think you've seen massive amount of improvement? You know, are the fighters getting better? Are we stagnating? Are we going backwards? What are your thoughts?
Listen, the biggest thing for the growth of MMA this year was definitely Don Madge getting that knockout. no one can contend with that in terms of that. That just put everyone on the map. Everyone's talking about it. Having that head kick KO, his performance, domination from round 1 to the end was unbelievable. And then obviously with, in terms of my view, you know, Drickus as well, being in KSW, you know, his loss was a loss, but still having that international exposure. Then obviously moving into Chad, and Chad being now top contender, title holder, contender for Brave. That's massive. Same as JP going out and beating a massive name, a Dagestani name. That's massive. In terms of everything else, like I think every year is a good year. Like you can't look at it as a bad year. It's always growth. You know, as long as the guys are performing and winning fights or putting on fights, I think there's always growth. People will stand up and look as long as it's a good fight. In terms of mixed martial arts in this country, I still believe that there's a lot of education that needs to be developed. I think that South Africa as a whole has this, I don't know what it is, it's like a blocker, you know, like no one wants to train with anyone, no one wants to learn from anyone, you know. For instance, an example would be like, I've done a lot for mixed martial arts in this country. I've had 15 UFC fighters, I've sent 2 guys to the UFC. I've got international guys in Brave and M1. Yet if I ask, I'm going to put on a seminar, no schools will come in a facility, you know, in Johannesburg. No one from Durban is requesting seminars, and it's just this whole ego trip, like, oh, you know, I don't want to learn from Richie Quan or this person or that person, and it saddens me because it stunts growth. People are so egotistical to say like, oh, well, I know, what does he know? Well, if I didn't know anything, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and I don't see anyone else doing it.
Yeah, just on that, which is not like it's something I've brought up many times before, and I asked you if you have a seminar, how many people come from other schools, and it's one of those weird things, and it's like I feel like it'll be a massive barrier breaking moment when people realize, okay, it's not going to hurt me to go to someone in the same industry as me that's doing better than me. I think that in itself is where the people struggle. They can't say, look, this person is achieving better results, so they must be doing something right. So, you know, why can't I go learn from that person? It's a very strange thing. It's a super strange thing. But and that's what it is. It's ego. Like it's the way I see it. Like MMA fighting in South Africa is like people see it as like this small pool, and everyone's just trying to like catch on to their piece and hold on to it. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be, like, people look at it and like there's gonna be cash here somehow. How can I get it? You know what I mean? And that's like the motivations is very strange.
Like people are scared to be exposed, and I don't really understand that. Like you can't know everything, so just do your thing. You know, like we have the South African EMAF team, amateur team at the World Champs now. Yet I haven't been involved in any of their training. And you've got like a promoter and an amateur coach training our head team that's going to represent our country. Yet we don't really, they haven't been exposed to multiple pros or better training. Now that's just an example of something that I think needs to change a lot. You know, and like a lot of South African fighters are fighting in multiple industries right now. So for fighters to train together as well, and people to connect with each other via schools and students, and just building each other up for big fights like overseas, you know, that's a massive thing. But I mean, the biggest one is just like, if there's a seminar, you'll have 1 or 2 schools, you know, and for me, I just don't understand it. It's just, we've been talking about this for a while. It's a stigma that I don't believe South Africa will ever eliminate, and it's sad.
There's another thing in there though, like you mentioned about your guys competing overseas. Do you think that not only have you guys proven your own worth in your system and how hard you guys are working and how dedicated they are to achieve these results, but do you think like Don, JP, Chad, Boyd crossing over, all of these things in some turn will eventually inspire people to say it can be achieved, you know what I mean? I can go to the UFC, I can get a knockout and it can be done, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do believe we can all do that. There's ways of doing it, and it's hard work, you know, but I do believe, I mean, my boys are leading the way for that. And my second generation is leading the way to get to the big promoters and earn the big dollars, you know, and people just need to kind of see that and know how to do it, but there is no other road. You have to go down that road. You can't make your own road. And I believe when guys come to me or they hear about, they want to kind of do it but make their own road, not understanding that there's only one road to that path.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and you have to sacrifice and do X, Y, Z, but it's willing to do that, you know. And with the second generation guys doing what they're doing, I hope it does influence other fighters, youngsters, to look at mixed martial arts in South Africa a different way and tell themselves that, hey, shit, if I want to do this, yes, I can.
Yeah, man, it's a powerful message, and it's something like I thought about when I saw Don. It was one of the big things that stuck with me. Is like, I wonder the ripple on effect. You know what I mean? Like, is it quite a defining moment? I mean, Don's a young guy, so and he started with the band, you know, and I would assume he's got the usual 6-5 contract to perform and that kind of thing. So he's right at the beginning of this curve, you know. And like people can look at that, and the right people they can look at that. Like there could be a youngster now on his way to Bahrain with Don Madge in his mind, thinking, you know, that's where I want to get to. And now that not that the road's been paved for me, but it's been shown that it can be done. And if you want to do it, it can happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's the bigger message here. If beyond all the other stuff of people's egos and whatever else. The fact of the matter is very simple, that Don is a guy that's been groomed in South Africa. Okay, obviously he was in Thailand on his own accord, but as a Thai fighter. But his MMA journey has been built here, obviously from past experience in Cape Town and guys from PFA that he trained with, to you to be molded into this fighter. And the same can be said for everybody that's taking that next step of evolution into like the international scene.
Like you see when Don came to me, everyone kind of threw him to the side because he had lost to Leon 3 times, so they're like, oh, this guy's useless. Now I'm the one that took him, brought him back up, got the title, got him to the UFC and did what he did. Now all my boys, if you look at Chad, he's only done MMA with me. JP is the same. Guys that haven't had it kind of left me, like Ika Kabesa, he's the same. The Mark Pena is the same, you know, we can go on and on, but like, what I believe is next year is going to be the biggest year for people to look at the second generation and go, shit, we can actually do this, because I believe next year 80% of my boys, the boys that are fighting internationally now, are going to be in the UFC. I do truly believe that I'm going to have at least 4 guys to 5 guys in the UFC by November next year. And guys can laugh at me now, but everything that I've said has eventually come true. So, you know, we'll see. I do believe this is going to happen, and when that happens, I hope people start standing up, opening their eyes, and giving credit where credit due, and basically people going that if I want to do this, I can do this.
100%, man. That's a powerful message to end there, Rich. Thank you very much for your time, man. It was a pleasure to chat with you and see what's happening. Massive congrats on a super successful year. I'm super excited about what 2019 brings. Obviously, like we're at the front of the door now.
Yeah.
The door's open, the guys are in, so it's massively exciting. It's going to be interesting to see what 2019 brings for you guys, and reality, the ripple effect for MMA in South Africa. And as always, I don't know if people tell you this enough, but you know, thank you for your dedication and hours of service and what you've done for MMA in this country. To be honest, I don't think we'd have much MMA if it wasn't for you. Not of a high quality, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's the reality, and I know people will say, oh, you know, you just love Richie Quan. I do, but the matter of the fact is that you're leading the way, and I think it's inspirational, and I think a lot of people draw inspiration from that, from the dedication. People gravitate towards people like you. They want to understand what's happening, how you're doing this, what is this dedication, what does it take to improve and grow and be so honest. And I think that's a big thing, that you're always honest. And I appreciate it for one. I know there's a lot of fans out there, and we have a lot to be thankful for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for everyone, man. Keep supporting MMA.
100%.